does he do? He might go all the way. He gives it a ride. It's a chance. It'll be a goal. You beauty, buddy. Wants to roll through. He can. Cometh the moment. Cometh the champion. Yes! He's made it! I don't believe it! I see it, but I don't believe it!
Welcome to another episode of the Swans Blog, Swans Cast. Tonight, I am joined by Stephen Treloar from Over the Line Sports. Stephen?
Hey, how you going?
Good, mate, good. And I'm also joined by Glenn from BigFooty. He's here to provide the Tigers' perspective.
How you going, mate, right?
Good, good. Thank you for joining me, guys. So, Glenn, you guys have been in pretty good form recently. You're sitting in the top four, a couple of close losses. You guys could be right up there in second or first place even.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good year, a lot better than I expected. But there was a little bit of an article in the paper today where it pretty much sums Richmond up. They're having a good year when it's the year where it's the most even year ever. So we're only one or two losses away from being right down the bottom of the ladder again. So we're still nervous.
Oh, that's true. But the way things are going, you've got to be very happy with how the season is progressing, especially considering the way it ended last year.
Oh, very happy. And they're playing a much better brand of football. I'm not sure how much you guys have seen of us play, but I think we're playing a brand of footy that stands up at the business end. Not that we'd know, that we're not there that often, but I watched a lot of footy, and it's probably the most sustainable brand of footy I've seen us play for a long, long time. And we'll find out this week, I guess, against the Swans, who are the best in the business, really.
Yeah, we certainly will. And Stephen, pretty good game on the weekend, would you say?
Yeah, look, it was kind of back to the Swans of old, really. We just out-pressured the Bulldogs at every turn, and look, it was an absolute pleasure to see. I mean, it took me a couple of minutes to kind of realise that we were back to that sort of top form, because I was just constantly, across basically the first quarter, I was going, oh, fuck yes, at all the kind of real pressure that we were laying all over the ground. It was wonderful.
It was an absolute treat to watch, and definitely great to see us play like that again. All right, so let's get straight into it. Our heroes and villains of the week. Stephen, would you like to start us off with your hero of the week?
Well, my hero of the week goes to kind of a category, I guess, and that's to the underdogs. We're going to talk about these guys a bit later, but Brisbane and Carlton both getting wins. As we've said, it's the closest season. I think most of us would agree it's the closest season in a long time. And look, I've kind of memories back in 2005 when we won the grand final, but I love watching a underdog get up. And yeah, it was good on Brisbane and good on Carlton. And it's kind of at times scary to see what their list will become in the future. But yeah, while they're doing so well now, good on him.
There was a couple of really good victories on the weekend, especially for Brisbane. They desperately needed that win. And Carlton, what a way to finish against GWS, to be honest. It was really, really surprising. And Glenn, what about you? Do you have a hero of the week?
I definitely have a hero of the week. My hero would be Jack Watts. I'm a big fan of Jack. I think he's a terrific player, but who can ever forget his first game against Collingwood when he was pretty much beaten to a pulp? And I think it set him back 2 or 3 years, to be honest. And a lot of people thought he wouldn't make it, but he just gets better and better. And it was just ironic that he was the one that pretty much iced the game at the end with a terrific goal, took the responsibility on and ran down the wing and kicked a beautiful goal. So he's my hero.
Yeah, redemption is sweet.
He certainly had a renaissance under Paul Roos, and I think he's definitely kept that going under Goodwin as well.
Yeah, very good player. Beautiful kick of the football.
Versatile too. He's been a handy in the ruck too.
Yeah, and he's not the biggest player, but he is very athletic.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I do have a hero of the week, and my hero of the week is Peter Wright. The Gold Coast Suns, they're kind of travelling okay, I suppose, compared to the last couple of seasons, but I think it's really impressive to see a second-year player stand up, and in the last 2 games in a row, he's iced it for the Suns. The Eagles had a massive comeback the previous week. They got in front, but Wright stood up. He nailed a goal right at the end, saved the game for the Suns. And again, They had Hawks. Hawks were coming hard. They were well down in that game, and they came hard in that last quarter. And Peter Wright, he stood up and kicked a clutch goal at the clutch moment, and that was all she wrote. The Suns won away from home at the MCG at the Hawks. You know, it was fantastic to watch. Now, Glenn, do you have a villain of the week?
I do have a villain. I think he's an unbelievable player, but the definite villain of the week for me was Toby Green. His last quarter at Carlton, look, he should have won the game. I think he kicked 4 or 5 behinds in the last quarter, but the effort where he should have handballed over the top to ice the game, but I reckon he's just gone a little bit to his head, Toby. He's starting to believe how good he is, and that was a terrible effort the other day where he should have just handballed over the top, tried to ice the game by himself, be the hero, and end up being the villain.
Oh, there was a couple of opportunities earlier in that last quarter where he was just trying to kick the impossible or go for the play that wasn't even there.
Ended up with 5 behinds, didn't he, for the match?
All
in the last quarter. Yeah.
Oh, look, that last quarter was nearly about as bad as it gets from a goal shooting perspective. It was pretty incredible watching them in the replay. What about yourself, Stephen? Who's your villain of the week?
I've had a bit of a think about this, and mine's actually Mark Robinson.
You stole mine.
Oh shit! Sorry, have I?
That's all right. Go for it.
Do you want to cut? And I'll find something.
No. You go for it. Go for it.
Sorry, mate. So if you haven't heard, Mark Robinson broadcast an apology to what he said in a tweet about Alex Fasolo, and Eddie Maguire's taken a bit of umbrage at Mark trying to get an interview with Alex. Is kind of Eddie's speaking on kind of behalf of the doctors that Mark should not try and get in contact with Alex, and it kind of smacks of journalistic opportunism, I think. And
yeah,
absolutely. It doesn't. I don't think Mark Robinson's a bad guy. I think he's done everything with kind of his best interests, with the best interests at heart. I listened to an interview he had on SEN the day it all happened, and I think he's truly apologetic for what happened. But the guy he's a bit of a moron. I mean, he's just a drunk. Yeah,
he is a drunk.
I don't want to dig into him too much, but he just really needs to step back and think before he kind of makes these sort of decisions.
Well, since mine was Mark Robinson as well, we might as well just continue the conversation. So, how many episodes a week of AFL 360 do you watch?
I watch nearly all of them.
Yeah, I don't watch it much. I don't know Foxtel, but when I can, yeah.
Well, you'd know he's a bit of a moron just by watching AFL 360. There's guests on the show that won't sit near him or won't talk to him because he keeps on touching him, or he keeps on saying silly things to him, or borderline offensive things, or he's questioning him in ways that they don't like being questioned, or just questions in general. So, yeah, I read that and I was shocked, to be honest. It was very surprising that given what had happened the previous week and that he'd taken so long to apologise, that he was, I don't know if it's naivety or stupidity, but the fact to just go back and say, oh, I'm very sorry, and I put in a very apologetic letter, and Eddie Maguire came out and said, it was very well-meaning, we accepted it as, a genuine apology, to then go and ask for an interview. It's just, journalistic opportunity, absolutely, but at the same time, you just got to wonder, what's he thinking when he's sort of doing these things? Myself, I don't know. I would like to think it's just him being naive.
I think it's a lot of stupidity where it comes in. I think I heard today that he asked, could he apologise? And they said, yeah, you can apologise. So he contacted Alex, apologised to him, and then right at the end he tacked on, how about an interview? Well, that's just ridiculous. That's exactly what you're saying. Well, that's opportunism. That's just ridiculous. Why would you even go down that track? Just stop it there, apologise, happy days. But no, he has to put that on the end. And it just looks scummy. basically.
Yeah, I've got 2 quick points. It's not often I'll agree with Eddie Maguire, but I think it's right that he just really should have kind of stayed away. Even contacting him to apologise, I would have thought would be depending on how Alex has taken it, which I have no idea about this. There's a bit of kind of speculation going on here, but I think kind of, keeping it to the media, not being that kind of personal context might have been better. But another point, this guy's the chief football writer for the Herald Sun.
Yeah.
How does he still have a job at that kind of high profile? It just beggars belief. And I mean, as someone, I kind of write for a startup sports website. I'm kind of interested in the whole journalism field in the future. Watching some of these kind of, ex-players and these sort of guys getting like the kind of high coverage, high profile stuff, it's a little bit grating. And you just kind of wonder if the football public deserve better than that. I mean, they know the game, but can they analyse it? Can they tell it to the people the way they deserve to have it told to them?
I think the biggest example of that is Wayne Carey and the way that Alistair Clarkson ripped into him recently, especially when he said that he's just manufacturing stories, he's just making it up on the fly. There was the whole Cyril Rioli leaving Hawthorn story, which was a non-event. It was never going to happen. And you got Wayne Carey just peddling it around in the media, and Alistair Clarkson calls him out on it. And also, I love the fact that BT kind of called him out on one of the telecasts as well.
Hyperextension there.
And Duck's still on about Sam and Robbie. That's okay.
Yes, well, Duck's, he's clawed into the hole, and I'm not helping him get out of it.
Lingy, you missed all this. Don't worry about it, all right?
I meant the lesser grade.
Mind you, it's not the only hole he's been in. Been a few in his career.
But I 100% agree, and this is something that we talked about on the Swans forum, and I know they've talked about it in the BigFooty forums, on the main forum, about the quality of journalism in AFL at the moment and where the integrity is. And you look at some reporters and you genuinely wonder how on earth they actually got a job, they keep their job, and just where the AFL response is in managing who actually has contact with the clubs and players. Everyone's a personality now. Anyone can be a personality. It doesn't matter, but yeah.
Robbo's like grabbing a bloke out of the pub and just getting his opinion. That's what he reminds me of. A little bit just
yeah,
like grab
very
a bloke,
much.
Grab a bloke out of the pub and say, "Listen, mate, what do you think?" And we'll put you on TV. And
he's already 5 beers in.
Yeah.
There's value in having like a voice like that, but having him like as a chief football writer of a leading Melbourne newspaper,
it's not right.
Yeah, it's not.
And he never learns. Never learns. That's his problem. He just never learns.
No, and this isn't the first time something silly's happened, and it's not going to be the last. But look, I think we talked about that last week, and I think we've spent long enough talking about it this week. We could spend an entire episode talking about it, but we're not going to. So we'll move on to the next topic. Let's talk about the Suns and Hawks game, which, from a football perspective, general football perspective, I thought this was a fabulous result for the Gold Coast Suns. They have done the double on the Hawks. They absolutely thrashed them earlier in the year, and they've come to the MCG, and they've finally done it. And look, did you guys get an opportunity to watch the game?
I did, actually. I watched the game, yeah.
Mostly on radio.
Well, it wasn't the highest quality game, but the Suns, they stuck to their game plan and pretty much outplayed the Hawks for really 3/4 of the game. They were well up in the third quarter, and they were miles ahead, to be honest. But the Hawks, they pegged them back right at the end of that third quarter, and then they just went ham in that fourth quarter. They kicked 5 goals in a row. They were less than a goal behind, I believe they were, or very close. I believe it was less than a goal behind. And then Peter Wright kicked the steadier. Then the Suns kicked away again. It was a very impressive win. And just looking at the stats, they absolutely dominated them. They should have won by a very big margin, but like Hawthorn of old, you really can't count them out of a contest until the contest is over. Guys, what do you think?
Well, I agree with everything you said. I thought they were the dominant team on the day by far, led by the little master again. But in the end, Hawthorn really had their opportunity, and that free kick, I don't really think it was there, to be honest. If you watched talking about AFL 360, they showed it, and Jared and Robbo were debating that. But I think Jared was right, where the angle, there was two different umpires with two different perspectives, and geez, that was very. If that was my team, I'd be pretty upset if that was a 50-metre penalty.
Ignorance of youth could help him on this occasion, but that is some type of mark. Huge kick for the young player.
Ben Ainsworth. Pick 4 in the draft last year. Massive kick. He's going to get 50. Oh, wow, what a call.
It's against Brand.
Against Brand.
Carlton twice. Marks here.
Well, it'll be a much more enjoyable kick now for Ben Ainsworth.
Whether or not that had an impact on the end result, it probably did, but they didn't deserve to win Hawthorn, but they were pretty unlucky with that decision.
Yeah, they definitely Hawthorn had a good chance to kind of snatch victory from the jaws of defeat there. Gold Coast kicking 13-17, they would have liked to be a bit more accurate there. And yeah, they really clawed their way back, nearly getting the lead in that fourth quarter. But for Gold Coast and where they are, I mean, they had four picks in the top 10 of the draft last year, and I think they've got 5 picks in the first 2 rounds this year. They're a young team. They're exciting when they're on, and look, I mean, I don't expect them to play like that all the time, but they're certainly kind of good signs, and the fact that both Queensland teams won, it's a good sign for that northern state.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what the AFL needed most of all. They need the Suns to actually be able to hold their own, because they can only prop them up for so long. And the noise coming from down south in Tasmania, it's getting louder every year. They really want a team, and it's a case of, does the AFL introduce a new team, or do they move an existing team? If the Suns can become competitive, if they can become somewhat sustainable, I don't think they're really ever going to be 100% independent from the AFL finance-wise. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But if they can at least get to a point where they can live on their own, and they're not totally dependent on handouts, then yeah, I don't think the Suns will be moved. I think they'll be there and they could become successful. But for Queensland football to have both teams win, that is exactly what the AFL needed. They can't have the Lions and the Suns basket cases again. It's just, they won't get crowds, they won't get any money up there. It's just a disaster pretty much. But yeah, like my hero, Peter Wright, stepped up, got the goal when they needed it most. And it was another good 40-metre kick directly in front, so it's very promising to see those younger players especially step up.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll just butt in there. I think a key thing for Gold Coast kind of survival in the long term, they have to be able to keep these players. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Stephen Treloar, who's a co-captain, and losing a captain of the club when you're an expansion team. I mean, I know Ryan Griffin went from Bulldogs to GWS, but for that to happen to an expansion team would just be absolutely, I reckon, would be a huge blow for them. And losing O'Meara, Prestia hurts, but I mean, they've done well in their recruits. Witts has been absolutely on fire. He had 46 hit-outs against Ben McAvoy, who's no slouch. Barlow's been solid. Jared Lyons has had a really good run of form in the past month, especially. And yeah, it's kind of Piers Hanley's come back and is doing his job pretty well, and things are looking good up there, I reckon.
They've done some pretty good pickups at the draft as well. And I think the senior players are leading. They're doing what they have to do. Just like with the Swans, when we had too many young players, too many experienced players, we teetered, we fell, because there just wasn't that experience in the team to say, this is what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it. And now that the Suns actually have that experience, I think that's translating into better performances, definitely improved performances and improved results. Glenn, anything you want to add?
Nah, not really. I was just having a bit of a chuckle before. He kept talking about old 2 metre Peter. I used to play against his dad. I used to play against his dad, Normie. And I was just thinking to myself, he was about 1 metre 97 Norm. But he was a very good player as well. Normie Wright. He was Peter Wright's dad. So there you go.
Oh, it's good to see us running the family there.
Yeah, good stuff.
That's a good one. All right. Now, from a Swans fans' perspective, the next game, the Carlton GWS, that was a superb result. But from a football perspective, it was a pretty good game, I've got to admit. Now, just quickly, did you guys see the game?
I said a little bit of it.
Yeah, I only got last quarter.
Well, I went through and I watched the replay, and although the score worm suggests that Carlton were on top for most of the game, I don't think it truly reflects how close the game actually was. It was a very, very close game. Either side could have won it. GWS should have won it. They had so many opportunities in the last quarter, especially, and we touched on that before, especially with Toby Green. They were on top in the last quarter. They just couldn't convert it to save themselves. But it was just immense the way the Carlton, they looked down at it, they looked out, it looked like GWS were just a goal away, just another point away from winning it, and then Carlton got it down the other end and scored 2 points, and that was all she wrote. They didn't score for the last 3 minutes, pretty much. Last 2 minutes. It was, considering how attacking the game was, that the fact they didn't even score for the last 2 minutes was absolutely amazing. Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, it was about, I think it was roughly 10 score changes throughout the course of the match. It was just one of those matches, and to think that Carlton were the ones who brought it to one of the top teams, premiership favourites, really. I mean, I say it again, it's been such a good season. And I mean, GWS they tried to play their game, their kind of free-flowing, attacking game. It had 11 bounces to 2, so they were trying to run it through, and they were winning in the tackles as well, especially in the forward 50. They had 21-7 tackles in the forward 50, so I don't think you can fault them for effort as such. It's just that kind of final conversion.
Certainly not with their pressure. Their pressure was fantastic. It really was.
Yeah, 9 goals, 16. Thanks, Toby Green. I think I hate to put the kind of blame on one player in particular, but it's hard not to in this case, I think.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
He should have won the game for him. He didn't.
He was a flog. He really was. He should have won it for him.
Great player, but a little bit ahead of himself, I think.
Yeah, everyone has their bad day.
But did you guys see that almost Stevie J moment at the end of the match? They had the ball up in the pocket. I think it was about 28, 30 seconds left. It goes up. It comes out the back, and Stevie J's running full pelt at the ball, and it just bobbles past him.
No, I didn't notice that, but it wouldn't have surprised me.
I'll tell you what, Carlton were riding their luck with that one. It was so close. But they got it out with a kick out of the air. That was the result. Fantastic.
Yeah, they got away with it. Oh, sorry. They got away with one there, Carlton, but they deserved the win. But they did get away with it. They shouldn't have won in the end. Gold Coast. GWS should have won that.
Yeah, too right. I can't disagree there. Back onto some Sydney talk. We've got our injured players coming up. So during the week, the Swans released an injury update on Cunningham, Robinson, McVeigh, and Cameron. Now, it's like Robinson himself, he's been really unlucky in the last couple of seasons. Cameron, he injured his shoulder early in the season, and in the reserves, he re-injured the same shoulder, dislocating it, and now he's ruled out for the rest of the season. We've also got McVeigh. He is kind of at the point where he's basically perma-cropped. There was some talk that maybe he'd sort of re-injured his hamstring from the club, re-injured his calf from the club. But apparently he's about 1 week away with his hamstring as it is, so it's a bit of smoke and mirrors at the moment. Robinson, he'll be available for selection this week. And Cunningham, he's coming up pretty well from his partial Lisfranc ligament tear. He's 3 weeks away. He is one very lucky boy. Stephen, you looking forward to these players coming back into the team?
Well, yeah. Although I'm still kind of a bit shell-shocked about that game against the Bulldogs. I mean, who do you drop to bring those guys back in, and especially when you have guys like Rowan and Tippett playing in the reserves? Dan Robertson, I think, will be one of the unlucky ones. I think he'll come back into via the reserves this week, and whether he gets a shot in the midfield depends on injuries and what happens in the next few weeks, I guess. But I think he's one of those guys who needs a bit more of that run in the seniors to kind of cement his form and to be able to do that role each week, because he's been doing. I've been quite impressed with him when he is on the ground.
Absolutely.
McVeigh, I think, has to come back, just in terms of the leadership he provides. I mean, when he came back in earlier in the year, that was after a absolutely rubbish start of the year from us. But I think that leadership he provides, even though he's not, in career best form sort of thing, I think his footy brain and his knowledge and what he can provide, especially to our younger guys, is invaluable.
Absolutely agree there.
Yeah. And Harry Cunningham, he was in some really good form before he got injured, and I was shattered to hear that he did the Liz Frank. They were saying, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, so to hear this on the 4-week side is a bit of a relief. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Considering last season, Talia did his. He missed a whole season. Dane Swan, he kind of really messed up his foot and he had to retire. But it all basically came down to both of them suffering Liz Frank injuries, and it was really amazing that they both did in that one game. So I think Cunningham, in particular, is very lucky that he's only suffered just like a minor tear, really a little bit more than a strain. So Robinson, agree, he's going to come back in through the reserves. He's going to be really unlucky because I 100% agree with you that he did play a very good role for us earlier in the season when we needed it the most. He's an accumulator. He wins his 26, 28 possessions a week, and he usually does pretty well with the ball. He's not the quickest, but he does pretty well. And McVeigh, that leadership, especially in the North Melbourne game, was superb. To have him come on with a dodgy hamstring, kick 2 goals in the second quarter, set us up, especially when the game was still kind of in the balance. That 5 minutes there where he kicked the 2 goals, that was it. That pretty much set the game apart. Although I don't think it would have done anything against Hawthorn. Because the team was pretty much off the ball there.
Yeah,
but
great.
I think with Kieran Jack coming back in, and a lot of our senior players actually starting to perform again, and a lot of the players becoming fit again, I think it's actually freed up the likes of Kennedy, Parker, and Hanbury to be able to lead the midfield, and Franklin to lead the forward line, Jack to lead the midfield, and then you've also got Heath Grundy with Rampy coming back in. Now he's not having to support the entire defence himself, so I think everything's kind of ebbed and flowed, and it's now back into a good sort of solid frame. So I'd love to see McVeigh come back in, but where do you put him? Who do you drop him? Who do you drop for him? And the same really goes for Cunningham. It's like Towers. Towers is pretty much the only one you do. And you could say the same argument for Rowan. Who does Rowan come in for? Hayward is pretty much the like for like there. That's really about it. And I think it'll happen. Not now, but I think eventually it'll happen because Hayward is in his first year and he has at times looked pretty fatigued. So, but yeah, look, it's the injury list is only 5 players, really 3 players who are out for long term, but 5 players considering the start of the season when it was a mile long and the last couple of seasons when it's been ridiculous at times. But yeah, look, that's our injury list. So let's do a bit of a review on the Bulldogs game. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you describe your happiness after the game?
Oh, close to 10. I tell you what. I mean, it was the thing that pleased me most about it was that it was a real team performance. I don't think there was anyone who I thought who had a rubbish game. There was only one player who had under 10 disposals for the game, and that was Naismith, who absolutely dominated in the ruck, although it wasn't really against anyone.
But his tackling, his ground tackling was ridiculously good.
his stuff around the ball for such a kind of big guy. He was. I heard when he was up against Tim English, it was only 1 centimetre of difference, but I think Naismith was 14 kilos heavier. So he's a big bloke, and to kind of see that around the ball is kind of like Mummy, but taller and bigger. Like, it's good to see, and I hope he keeps that going in the future.
And that pressure and the way that he asserted himself in that first quarter, it was very much like how he did it in the grand final. You just got stuck in and threw players to the ground and really tackled viciously. Yeah, he faded. That was always going to happen because he hasn't played much football. But when he was there and he was at the contest, he was really a big physical presence.
Yeah, agreed. And another who I thought did well, especially early on, Kieran Jack. I mean, we've talked about the kind of leadership he provides, but he also leads by example, and it's so good to see him back playing those heavy tackles.
Oh, look, 100% agree there. And, you know, I've written a couple of articles about this, and I think it was very unfair earlier in the season to have some people in the media write him off as irrelevant, garbage, past it, needs to retire and whatnot. And then you look at him, he's only 29 years old. He really should be in his peak.
Yeah,
but you can also...
Good 3 years left, good 3 years.
Yeah, he's still got another good 3 years, and he hasn't really had a long injury layoff in his career before. He's had some down patches, but that's also coincided with the rise of Parker and Hanbury, who have been absurdly good for quite a stretch of time, and it's not like they're 30 themselves either. One's, 26 and the other one's 24?
Yes.
So I think it was a bit premature for people to start writing him off earlier in the season, and it was really good actually to have his lovely partner sort of liking the post and having a chat with her about it. So I think she was a bit agreeable when I said in one of my articles that Matthew Lloyd should flog off because he's a hack journalist. So
we could talk about that for a long time.
Oh, look, some of the players I thought were superb is Hewitt. He was absolutely important to shutting down the run that they had off the halfback. And I think that's going to set the template going forward to play in the Bulldogs. Glenn, what did you think about that?
About the game?
About the way that Hewitt shut down Johannesson and absolutely nullified their runoff.
I thought it was huge in the whole context of the game, really. Like, he gives them so much drive, and they just shut Johannesson down. And by the end of the game, he was mentally shot. And you could see it. And the players, they stuck to their task. It wasn't just Hewitt. He was fantastic, but it was a real team effort. And I heard Bob Murphy on the radio this morning talking about it, saying that they just stuck to it the whole game, whereas a lot of times, if you're going to shut a player down, he was sort of saying that they'll go at a player for the first 5 minutes, and it's all a bit of bluff and bluster, and then it just dies off. But the Swans just stuck at it and at it and at it the whole game, and just wore him down. And it was massive because he gives him so much drive, Johannesson, and he just gave him nothing due to Hewitt and due to all his teammates buying in. And that was the best game they've played. I mean, really, in my eyes, they're still the best team in the comp, the Swans. And I actually backed them for the flag leading up to that, $34. Thank you very much. But
nice.
That's probably the end of it. But
my partner's jumped on at 24 and 28 and 12, so should be happy either way.
I jumped on. And, but that was a pretty comprehensive win. And I thought Chris Scott on AFL 360 during the week said something pretty pertinent, where it's not who you play or how you play, it's when you play a team. And unfortunately for Richmond, I think we're playing the Swans right at the wrong time. I wish we had played this 4 weeks ago, but
I bet.
Yeah, they're on, and they were on that day, and they shut him down, and he's going to have to learn from that, because if that's the template for other teams, Jason Johannesson did for a very hard time, because
he had no possessions
right out
in
the
that
game.
last quarter. None whatsoever, no possessions.
Yep.
And you're right, he looked mentally shot. He didn't even want to be there, especially in the last 5 minutes. You could see him running away from the contest. That chase on Hewitt was pathetic.
I did say that. Yeah, that was poor. And I think he's admitted that he was very, very average. He mentally he gave in on the night. They just broke him down. The Swans broke him down, and it's not often. Who would have thought 15 years ago that you shut down a half-back flanker, and that's the play you want to shut down. But that's where it's at now.
And in a defence which didn't have Bob Murphy, which didn't have Dale Morris, and who lost Marcus Adams halfway through the match.
Yeah.
He was kind of their main general back there, and other than kind of Matthew Boyd, but like they just rely so much on those senior players.
There's two players at the Bulldogs you shut down, I think, and that's Johannesson and Lockie Hunter. You shut those guys down. You shut their whole drive down. They give them everything. And it's been proven this year. Lockie Hunter's been shut down a couple of times as well. So that's, it's not about shutting down the best on-baller anymore. It's about shutting down the guys that give you the drive.
Oh, look, Lockie Hunter, he didn't have a huge impact on the game either. He only finished with 22 disposals. Jack McRae, he still finished top for the Dogs with 32, but you are right. And I think Marcus Bontempelli, he was shut down emphatically in the first half. He had next to no impact whatsoever, and he only finished with 18. One of the criticisms that a lot of people have had of the Swans in recent years, and I think it's a pretty fair criticism, is that they've gone to water when it's, when the heat's been turned up, when it's got really physical, that teams could really get in their face and really intimidate them. And Hawthorn back in 2014 in that very unfortunate grand final really, again, they set a template there where you just got to rough them up, ruffle the feathers, get stuck in, and the Swans will wilt away. And unfortunately, that persisted for a couple of seasons. But I think it's good to see now, from a Swan supporter perspective, that the players are, getting stuck up, they're getting stuck in, they're really making, their physical presence known and really sticking up for themselves. So who knows, this could be, the Bulldogs last season, they had the miracle run, so to speak, where they came from nowhere and won the grand final. But it's set up for the Swans to do something even more ridiculous from second last. How many... It's like, hey, you won it from seventh, we won it from second last. Hey, screw you.
I'll tell you what, I want to just point out one player who is really impressing me lately, Tom Papley. Ben McGlynn Jr. He's been absolutely superb. I think I heard a stat he had like 7 tackles inside 50.
Yeah, he did.
And he also did really well in the midfield as well. He had 8 contested possessions, 2 clearances. For a player who's naturally a small forward, I mean, I don't think you'd see someone like Eddie Betts to have that kind of versatility. I'm not comparing Papley to Betts at all, but I think they're different players. But I think Papley's really starting to show his value, especially as someone who was picked off the rookie draft as a plumber. Like, he's just really showing his true colours.
Tell you what, he's not much of a plumber when it comes to football. He's actually a bit of icing, to be honest, the way he goes about it. He's very much like Ben McGlynn used to be. He's quite quick, quite strong, small, but really physically strong. And from the Swans team, he was equal lead with the tackles with Luke Parker on 8. And he spent a lot of time in the midfield as well. And he was definitely one of the best players for the Swans, and at times a very important player as well.
Agreed. And also, just quickly, I want to give a bit of credit to one of my favourite players, a bit of credit to the opposition where it's due, Caleb Daniel. Far out, I love the guy. I was shattered when we didn't draft him. But yeah, I thought he had a great game, especially in that first half. He was really kind of holding them together in the midfield, really, I thought. And it'll be great to see where he goes in the future.
Oh, look, it was great to see that. But I think it was even better to see the umpires actually penalising the Bont for holding the ball or dropping the ball. That was
he had.
Yeah, he had 2 holding the balls in the space of a minute. I think they were both to Heaney.
Yeah,
I think I commented on that.
Definitely had one. I remember it was a great one.
And then the next one was where it got him a little bit high and then just dropped the ball in the tackle, and the umpire went, yeah, dropping the ball. And he's like, what? I thought it was fantastic. He had 5 free kicks against, and I think they were all for holding the ball. So well done to the umps for actually doing something about that for a change, because it's been a bit ridiculous at times watching him hold the ball for 10 seconds in a tackle. But look, from the game, we dominated from the off. We really... It wasn't like a quick start, because they were always in the contest and they fought and fought. And the first quarter was pretty close, but, we were up. But we really put our foot down in the second quarter, and, they kept coming back in the third, in the middle part and the last part where they got that run of 2 goals each. But it was just really, really good to see us really step it up in that last quarter and put the game beyond doubt. So, yeah. It's kind of pretty interesting when you look over the AFL scores, the AF on the player ratings, and you see that our best players just cracked the ton. Heaney on 113, Kennedy on 112, Parker on 108. And then you look at some of the other games, some players are, scoring 150, 160, and maybe their team isn't even winning. So, yeah, it was just... it was a really good team performance, that one. No one particularly stood out as, carrying the team on their shoulders. So, yeah.
Agreed. And one quick topic I'd like to bring up quickly, the ruck performance. The Swans had 65 outs, 16 of the Bulldogs. And admittedly, that was against mostly Tim English for the second half when they had to move Jordan Roughhead back. But, I mean... looking at Kurt Tippett, who's stuck in the reserves, I don't think he can bring him back against Richmond after that.
We're certainly going to talk about him later on, but yeah, I agree. And like the disposal disparity was impressive, but the one thing I thought was probably the most impressive of all was the free kick count. We actually won it for a change, especially against the Bravedogs.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right? 22-13. You'd think someone had gone and stolen their baby or something from what happened there. It was just, it's great to see.
Late. How many months late were you? About 8 months, 6 months, whatever.
Too many. Yeah. Let's not talk about the grand final.
Yeah,
But we absolutely smashed them in the inside 50 by, what's that, 32 if my math is correct, 71-39. So, yeah, we should have pumped them. That should have been an 80-point win. But took our foot off in the end, and, they kind of tidied out the margin, kept it respectable. But, yeah, it's a good win. All right, so... let's talk a little bit about the Swans reserves. So, on the weekend... What's that, mate?
I was just saying, now, here's a demolition.
Yeah, it's a demolition. No, I put up an article today where I sort of suggested that maybe Tippett isn't particularly responsible for this result, as impressive as he was on the day. I was, unfortunately, away from home at the time. Catching up with a mate of mine. So you were tweeting me the update, Stephen, and I had a bit of a laugh when you said that the scores have been reset in the third quarter. The Giants had their massive halftime score of 4 points reset to 0 because they had 19 players on the ground. So the reserves won 185-14. That is a shameful, shambolic scoreline. And yeah, I genuinely wonder whether or not the Needful's actually doing anything for the Swans players. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if the Swans reserves were playing in the VFL, I'd be absolutely over the moon. But alas, that can't happen. We don't have the kind of quality seconds comp. But to be fair to the Giants, they only had, I think it was 3 senior listed players playing. I'm not sure what's happened to the Giants' depth because their injury list isn't. Well, yeah, but I mean, they've only got, I think it's like 11 players on their injury list, and I think Collingwood have more. There was a couple of other teams who had similar numbers. So it's not like they're particularly worse off than other clubs. But, I mean, they just got absolutely hammered. I mean, first time I've seen it finish with less points than they had at half-time. But credit to our guys. I mean, Sam Wicks, who's a Swans Academy boy, was called into the squad and kicked 4 goals and was absolutely wonderful. He got the Niafel Rising Star Award for the week. Just finding out, so 4 goals, 15 disposals as well. So it's great to see the young guns kind of coming in. Dawson as well, probably best on ground with 4 goals and 20 touches, 4 marks, 12 tackles. So it's great to see him because he could, one of those guys who I think could be a great contributor for us in the seniors if we develop him right. But I mean, all around the ground, demolished them.
Oh, absolutely. Look, the thing about Jordan Dawson, he had a crack earlier in the season, and he didn't look entirely out of place at AFL level. He wasn't quite up to the speed of it. He wasn't really reading the game, like AFL speed reading it, but he was there in the game, which is the most important thing. But back in the reserves, it looks like they're trying to change him into an inside midfielder in a Josh Kennedy kind of mould, and he's gone with it. He has been absolutely phenomenal with it. He has been basically amongst the top 4 or 5 players every single week in the reserves. And it's kind of hard to say when they're flogging teams by 10 goals almost every single week now, whether or not it's competitive, because let's face it, they haven't... What's that?
Or 20 goals or 30 goals.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't had a competitive hit out for quite a while. Sydney Uni were the top team and they crunched them, absolutely flopped them. So... yeah, it's kind of an interesting one about how you actually measure the performance. But the Swans, they'll be looking at certain things that the players are doing, and Tom Harley said during the week that Tippett has some things that he needs to work on, especially, unfortunately, jogging after players in the last quarter is definitely one of the things he needs to work on. But he did well. He worked on some of those things, but he still needs to work on them. And I guess you've got to measure that up with players like Dawson and Aaliyah, who are in the reserves. They're playing reasonably well, but also, your Foots, your Florence, your O'Raudens, your Foxes, and Edwards, those kind of players who are going to be role players, but they could potentially be upgraded as rookies. What is the actual measurement for saying, okay, you are ready to come in and play AFL? Because we had Jack Hiscox come in last year, and he was... I don't even know what the decision behind that was. He was nowhere near it. You could see it when he was playing. He was playing scared, pretty much.
Yeah, I think I was a kind of case of picking an athlete rather than a footballer, unfortunately. It was... he came through our academy, but... yeah, just one of those guys who wasn't quite up to the AFL standard, unfortunately.
Oh, you throw him in and you see what he does, but... oh, well, look, we tried with him. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But we still have a couple of impressive players to work with in the reserves, and here's hoping that the team actually gets a competitive hit out sometime soon. I think also with the NEFL playing the Tasmanian League, that could have had an impact on GWS's depth as well. Whether or not Sydney released any players for that, I don't know, but that did have some good players from the league in it. So I would like to see how the lineup does against stronger opposition, especially Tippett, because he needs to perform. And I think it's kind of, pun intended, it's a tipping point for him, because he's been forced to go back to the reserves and perform and find some kind of form to warrant a selection in the AFL. And again, I'm talking about what I wrote today. His performances this season just hasn't been anywhere near good enough. It really hasn't even been AFL standard. He hasn't actually deserved to be selected based on what he's done this season. And, there was a little bit of argument about, discussion about who was the better ruck between Sinclair and Tippett when they were playing. I think hands down Sinclair was the better player between them when they were playing in the same team, and I think that is damning on Tippett, because that should never happen.
Yeah, agreed. I think especially after the Bulldogs match, Sinclair I was really impressed by his game. If only he could kind of really clock those marks, I would just kind of really make his game so he could be actually a really good player rather than just kind of the serviceable player with the kind of good bits here and there that he is at the moment. I think it's hard for Tippett because when he plays in 30 goal thrashings and he kicks, 3 goals, 9 marks, 5 tackles, 141
almost, exactly, and he has almost 30 possessions himself. So
yeah, I mean, what can he do against that sort of opposition that'll say, right, I'm good, I'm ready to go and back to play AFL? It's really hard.
Oh, look, the disposal differential on that game was almost 200. So, exactly, I don't know.
And on top of that, we also
do.
won the tackle count, which is just baffling.
Yeah, I know. It's, that just goes to show just how poor the opposition were. And there are going to be indicators that he needs to fulfill to be able to get back to AFL level. And I completely agree with the article that you wrote after the Hawthorn game. I'm not sure that you meant to do it immediately after the Hawthorn game, but the fact that when he is fully fit and he's playing at his best, he is arguably the best or second best ruck forward in the game, especially the fact that he can take contested marks and he can kick goals. But at the moment, he is so far away from that. It is ridiculous. He's kicked 3 goals in 5 games, 3 points. His best hit-out game was against Hawthorn. His disposals, the maximum he's had is 12. He's had that twice. And he's getting some marks, but he's only averaging 3 a game. And for a player of his size, you'd expect him to average a bit more than that, I would think. He's still getting tackles, but 2 a game. So
Let's be
I think
honest,
it's just
he's
work rate.
Tyrone.
Yeah.
He's Tyrone Vickery all over again.
Oh, Mark 2, unfortunately. And I think his work rate...
Apparently we're chasing him. If we get him, I'll spew.
Yeah, I don't know what's behind that, to be honest, because I was surprised when I read that. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think too many Tiger supporters are going to be happy about
Oh.
that.
No. There's plenty of players in the Swans reserves that I'll be happy to have, but not him.
Not him, yeah. Look, I think the Swans are going to struggle to get rid of him at the end of the year, and there is definitely a lot of noise in the AFL about that this week. There's been a lot of articles and a lot of discussion. So, yeah, I don't know what the Swans are going to do at season's end, but if they're going to keep paying him $975,000 a season to play in reserves, they should expect a hell of a lot more than what has been dishing up. But yeah, look, we could talk about this until the cows come home. So, in all honesty, let's move on. Now, Glenn, this is going to be your favourite segment, the Richmond preview. So let's hear it from your end. Let's talk about the Tigers.
The mighty Tigers. What do you want to know?
Oh, look, how good's their song?
It's the best song, but it doesn't get us far. Let's be honest.
No, I've been to a few Tigers games, obviously, except the Swans games, and I love singing the song. It's a great one.
We got a lot of good songs. If you go down beneath the stands at the Punt Road end, you will hear even better songs. But the old Richmond Grog Squad, they've got some real good songs. But but we can't just be known for our songs forever because we've been very ordinary for about 30 years. But we're coming good now.
Yep, so that's it. That's it for the preview?
No, what do you want to know?
Well, how do you reckon the game will turn out?
Yeah. Tell us about your perspective on the game.
Well, my perspective on the game is that, as I said before, I'm a bit concerned that we're playing Sydney at the wrong time, and yet, bizarrely, we seem to play Sydney other times at the MCG when we're going, we're far inferior to what we are now, and somehow we seem to win. And Sydney are a better side than they are now. So, but I've got this funny feeling that they're going to beat us. So work that out. But I think really it's probably the biggest game of the year, to be honest, because Richmond are sitting fourth, 7 wins, but the ladder is so close. There's so many teams. You're only a game or two from being from 4th to 12th, and Sydney, to me, are the best side in the comp, I still think. And they're sitting where AS 13th, 14th, and they're not going to want to lose in too many games. They're going to be wanting to make the 8, let's be honest. So if they lose this week, well, they're pretty much knackered. And I think if Richmond lose this week, well, they're really under the pump. So it's a massive game. But, and the matchups, I heard someone say tonight on the television that Rance v Franklin is Carey v Djakovic all over again, which isn't that far off the mark, to be honest. That'll be massive. And the midfield battle, Martin and Cochin, they're in unbelievable form, but I just really rate Kennedy, Hanbury, Lloyd, these guys. I reckon he got a fantastic midfield. That's where the game will be won and lost. Because
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, because I think Sydney match up well with us. We've got these small forwards. Last game, we went in with a real small forward line against North Melbourne. The guys lowered their eyes, and it worked really well. I don't know how well it'll work against the Swans with your Dane Rampies and these type of guys in the side. That it's a different setup to North Melbourne. So I'm just not sure how that'll work, and they might cut us off a fair bit. So I'm looking forward to the game, but I'm pretty apprehensive about it as well because I think obviously both teams at their peak, Sydney are the better team.
And I think apart from the last game last year, the games between the two teams have actually been really good contests. So it should be, football-wise, it should actually be a really good game to watch, especially from a neutral perspective. So both teams are showing a bit of form at the moment. Stephen, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I was at the Richmond Swans game at the MCG last year. I'm going to be there this week. I tell you what, if you play Ben Griffiths, he'll kick 6 goals and you guys will win again. I'm not sure how, but for some reason that was
we don't have Richards. I think we're home safe. We don't have Teddy on that one.
Well, no, he was playing on Heath Grundy. Heath Grundy was the one game in the whole year where he was absolutely towed up. It was ridiculous. But yeah, funny. I think
we're probably a better side now by
true.
Not having Griffiths, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. One thing I did see, I think it was today actually, there was I think it was a bit of kind of extending on how well Hewitt did against Joe Hannison. They were saying they might put him against Dusty. And personally, I think that's going a bit far. There's only so much you can do against him. I'm sure Georgie would learn a lot from it. But I think putting him head to head with guys like Parker and Heaney even, I think would be a kind of great matchup to see. I think whoever plays on Jack Rewalt, I think they'll have their hands full, I reckon. And yeah, as you said, that midfield battle, I love the Swans at the moment in that it's a wide range of players who are really contributing. You've got your big three in Kennedy, Hanbury, Parker, but you have Lloyd, then you have Heaney, who's been absolutely on fire. If he keeps on playing like that from now till the end of the year, he'll be an All-Australian talk, I reckon. That's my big kind of call for the rest of the season. But yeah, I think one of the things that I've been impressed with Richmond, they're playing a very accountable game. All their players are really standing up. In previous years, you kind of left it to your Dusties, Cochins, Rewalts and Rans, and that was pretty much it. But now you've got your Prestias, your who else? Asprey's been great.
Well, there is a guy. Small
forwards as well. So
there is a guy down back.
Yeah.
Joe Hannison, you're talking about. Well, we've got a guy called Camden McIntosh, and he sets up everything for Richmond. And I would expect Hewitt to play on him.
Yeah.
Except that he's not Jason Johannesson. He's pretty hard. He's pretty tough. So I'm really looking forward to that. Like it'll be a really, really good contest. But I expect that he would accept the challenge a lot better than JJ did. And I reckon that'll be a massive impact on the game, because if Camden McIntosh plays well, Richmond win, basically. But if he doesn't, they lose. That's how important he is. But he doesn't get a lot of... you wouldn't even know who he is, probably. But he's massive for Richmond.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I remember him on his debut, and he impressed me with his size, yet he also had that dash as well. So definitely a different player to JJ, but I mean, look, there's any number of players that you could send George Hewitt to, and it would be a good contest.
So, I suppose for the matchups, definitely Rewalt, we have to close him down, and we're looking at Rampy has to go with him. I think pace for pace, definitely the kind of player we need to go with him, and he's done a pretty good job on him previously. Then you've also got Ranscone and Franklin, so they're the two big, main forward line matchups. And, Franklin's got the wood on him, so it's going to be an interesting one, especially when the Swans did the Tigers in by 16 goals last season. People saying how impressive Rance was when he helped the Tigers limit the impact that Franklin had, but Franklin was pretty much one of the best on grounds in that game, and he was ridiculously good. And the midfield head-to-heads, they're going to be absolutely immense. I don't think there's really any way to shut Dustin Martin down. He's too strong and he's too good. Very much in the same way that Dane Swan was. So it's pretty much just a head-to-head. Someone like a Parker or Hanbury just has to go head-to-head with him. But we might see someone like Kieran Jack do a tagging role there. It's going to be a good game. So Glenn, you're saying that you think the Swans might be a little bit too strong at the end for the old Tigers?
Well, that's my worry. I think, honestly, we're playing well enough to win, but I just think we're playing Sydney right at the wrong time. And if I was being honest, all the sides in the competition, I would rate Sydney still as the best side in the comp. It sounds ridiculous because they're sitting down near the bottom of the ladder, but they're just starting to put it all together now. And hopefully, because we are playing really good footy. I know that we've played a bad game. Yeah. We've played a bad half against Adelaide. But we haven't really played a bad game. But coming off the bye, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But, yeah, all things being equal, I would think that Sydney are the better side.
Look, I think those early season losses might come back to haunt the Tigers, especially those losing the games by less than a goal with, a minute and a clock left. You've got GWS, and then you've got another 2 games on top of that, which was just... If there's one team in the league that can only frustrate you, it's unfortunately the Tigers.
Tell me that.
So, yeah, I still remember watching the Gold Coast Suns win the unwinnable. That was so. All I can say.
Beaten by a rugby league player.
Oh, I know. Look, all I can say from a Swan side is, if it comes down to that situation. I'm sorry, Tigers, you're going down.
Well, we didn't last time. We had a siren, didn't we? But he didn't play rugby though.
Yep. No. So, as long as our backline doesn't make one of your journeymen look like world champions again, I think we'll do okay.
That's a bit harsh.
Oh, come on, Ben Griffiths. He's struggled to get in the team before and afterwards.
Well, he's in a bit of trouble actually with his. He's been knocked out too many times. I don't think he'll play again.
Yeah, I know. He had a bit of potential about him earlier in his career, so. But unfortunately, things happen.
Yeah.
All right, so the good calls and bad calls from last week. So we had Rowan, who predicted the Dogs to win. That's definitely a bad call. He also predicted that he would make a fortune off the game. It's also a bad call. And he predicted that the umpires would have an influence. See, I don't know if this is a good call or bad call. I would say that this is probably a bad call. What do you think, Glenn?
Bad call.
Yeah, bad call.
Yeah.
The Dogs they just weren't there. Now, for my predictions, I had game to be decided by less than 2 goals. Bad call.
Yeah, bad call.
Yeah, it's a terrible call. I had Franklin to kick 5 goals. I'm just trying to find the stats now. I don't believe that he kicked 5 goals.
That's a bad
3
call.
goals. Yeah, it's a bad call.
He played well.
He
did play well.
He got 3 goals, 5. So he
It's
should
a
have
half.
had 6
It's
or
a
7.
half call.
Half call. Close enough.
Not a bad call. Yeah.
No. And then I had Jack Lloyd, 33 disposals, influential. He finished with... My printout doesn't even have it. He was...
No, I reckon he had 31 or something. That's a pretty good call.
31, 32, yeah. And he was at times influential. So we'll say that's a good call.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have a look at some predictions. So if you could please give me 3 predictions for the week. So it doesn't have to be the game related. It can be anything.
Okay. Essendon will get smashed. Are they playing? They got the bye. They probably got the bye. How am I travelling?
So Essendon
Yeah,
are going to
they've got
get
a
smashed
bye.
by the bye.
Sorry, I'm
No.
back, guys.
Because they're up and down like yo-yos. But, all right. So West Coast will definitely lose at home against Geelong.
Oh, come on. That's the only place they can win.
No,
All right.
they're too soft. I reckon Dustin Martin will be best on ground this week. I don't think Sydney have got anyone that can stop him. Whether we win or lose, he'll be best on ground. And I reckon Jeremy Howe will take a better... Well, they've probably got the bye as well, have they?
Yep, sure do.
Yeah, take a good mark.
How good am I going?
We'll just nick down to Olympic Oval and watch training.
At GWS playing again?
No, they've got the bye too.
Oh,
Look at the bye.
Jesus Christ. Well, I predict they've got the bye, but there's 2. The third one will be that I'm out. I've got no idea anymore.
Got no idea.
Thrown me.
No worries. Stephen, what do you think, mate?
Look, one that I've kind of got written down here, I've kind of scrolled down and in a bit of anger, I think. One prediction I have is that I'm going to get 0 tips right this week. I think
All in the bandwagon.
Well, yeah, I got a lot of faith in myself, I know. But all these games, West Coast Geelong, North St Kilda, Richmond Sydney, Port Brisbane, Gold Coast Carlton, and Bulldogs Melbourne, they're all pretty close games. I honestly don't think... I wouldn't be surprised at all if all the games were decided within 20 points. I could quite easily get every single one of those wrong.
Yeah, that's very true.
Another prediction I have, this is a bit more niche, but another one of the players I love is a Carlton rebounding back, Sam Doherty. I reckon against Gold Coast he'll have 40 touches.
Oh, nice. That'll be a pretty damn good game.
Yeah. But yeah, that's looking to be a cracker of a game as well. And I reckon for another one, just as a little bit of an out there one, I reckon Smokey for All-Australian Ruckman, Cruiser.
Oh, I don't know about that one as a bit of an out there.
It's very
well,
but I mean,
it's looking a little bit head of this coming week.
Oh, like, of course, sorry. But I was impressed with this game last week on his 150th, and I think he was pretty much Carlton's best on ground. Beat Mumford pretty convincingly. Won his own ball and I think he's really kind of starting to prove that he was worth that number one pick.
He's one of those players who, if he didn't have all the injuries he had, he'd probably be arguably the best ruckman in the game.
Yeah.
And I think he'd be in the discussion, up there with Cox. Ball at one point was a superb ruckman, right up there at the top end of who is the absolute best ruckman, because he's athletic, he can jump, he can mark, he can kick goals, and he is just all round a superb ruckman. So, yeah. Now, do you have a third prediction of the week, or are you going to stick with the season-long prediction?
Oh, okay. One for this week. Oh. This is one completely off the top of my head, but I think the Richmond-Sydney game, I reckon it'll either be... this is a really awful prediction because I was going to say it was either going to be one of the teams by 100 points or one of the teams like...
neither scores.
Not by 100. Man, the prediction should be neither team will score 100.
Not 100.
Neither team will score 100.
A big blowout,
Yeah. All right. Your third prediction is big blowout.
Well, either big blowout or on the siren. Not a middle
score. Fuck this. not on the siren again. You can take that prediction on the walk. That's going to be too much for everyone involved. I'm going a bit left field here. I'm going to say Aaliyah in for... Because we haven't got the teams yet, I'm going to say Aaliyah in for Marsh. That's my first one. My second one... I'm going with Nick Newman for 30 disposals.
Good call.
Pretty safe. And my third one, I'm going for the Suns by 40. What do you guys think?
Who are the Suns playing?
Carlton.
Playing Carlton.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Oh. Jeez, that's a bit harsh on Carlton.
Oh, they're a bit up and down. You never know what they're going to give you. Sometimes they'll give you a bit of GWS Sydney kind of performance, and other times they'll sitting there scratching their head going, who the hell are these guys?
That's the thing. I had no idea who you were talking about there. Was it Gold Coast or Carlton you were talking about? Because both teams are quite the same, I think, in terms of kind of like a consistency.
Here's a good third prediction for you. Toby Nankervis best on ground.
Oh, of course.
Forgot about Toby.
This is never going to happen.
Fancy letting him go. What the hell was going on there? He's a gun. Absolute gun.
He can't jump.
It doesn't matter. He can kick, he can mark, he can do everything else. It doesn't matter about jumping.
Oh, that he can do.
He's kicking, he's unbelievable.
He showed a lot. That semi-final that he played against Adelaide, that was a very good performance. And I was particularly disappointed that Tippett came back in for him and he was just garbage. So
absolute garbage.
Look, I'll tell you the reason he was fourth on the ladder. It's not Dustin Martin. It's Toby Nankervis.
Oh, you want to swap it?
Cool,
so you got Dustin Martin and Nankervis equal best on ground.
He's the reason Richmond are fourth. Not Dustin Martin. That's Toby Nankervis. And every Richmond supporter would agree with that.
Yeah, look, it's fair enough. I've been really impressed with him. His pressure around the ground's great. I mean, he may have the turning circle of a pregnant cow, but I mean...
we'll see this week.
It's great to see him kind of be given him that responsibility, because that's something that we weren't really able to give him that, because he was, at the Swans, he was more that ruck forward type. When he was in the seniors, and he never had that chance to take that main ruck role. So it's great to see him.
He'll be first ruck this week, Naismith or Towers. He'll be first ruck.
No. Naismith or Towers? Certainly hope not Towers.
I mean, he's got a good leap on him, but...
Towers. Towers. I thought he'd done a bit of ruck work. He's a tower.
Oh, he actually did have a crack at one point.
Yeah, in his draft year, he got the record for the vertical leap test, didn't he?
Well, there you go.
Yeah. But he did have a crack. No, you're right. He did have a crack not too long ago in the ruck. I can't remember who it was against. He didn't do good.
I bet you any money Nankervis smashes Naismith.
No.
I bet he
I
does.
reckon those two head to head, they'll just throw each other to the ground. That's a great contest to watch.
Yeah,
That one, to be honest.
agreed. That'll be huge.
I'm talking about around the ground. That's where Nankervis.
Oh yeah,
very good around
He's
the
pretty
ground,
quick, though.
Nankervis. Very
Well,
agile,
Naismith
very
is-
good kick.
Naismith is he's pretty good around the ground. He's quite agile. He's quite quick. I think he's a bit like Mike Pike used to be. He's a bit deceptive in the way that he moves, in the way that he approaches the ball.
Yep.
For a massive unit, he is surprisingly quick, and he gets down low to tackle, and he's a very good tackler. So, look, they're both fierce competitors, and I think they're both going to bring a lot to the game for both teams.
Well, pretty imperative contest, I reckon. That one.
Yeah. Look, I think Naismith and even Sinclair will have Nankervis done in the contests, but it's what they can do at the ground and how much ball the Richmond mids can get from, roving the ball off the rock. So
Yeah.
I would expect that the hit-outs are in favour of the Swans this week, but centre clearances may well be, again, in favour of the Tigers. So clearances overall, I think the Tigers will win that one.
Yeah. Fair enough.
All right, well, that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you very much, Glenn. It's been a pleasure having you on board.
No problem. Boys, been good.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
And
No worries.
Stephen, thank you for joining us again. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Really enjoying these podcasts. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's good to hear, It's no good if you hate it. Might have to, pick up shop and go away. But stay tuned for next week's Swanscast. We're going to try and get another guest on the show. Hopefully someone from the Essendon's fan base to provide us a bit of perspective. We should have Rowan back on board, and hopefully as well Andrew if he's available. Stay tuned. Again, you can always get in contact with us on social media, on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram using the Swans Blog with a little it symbol, and you can also send us questions and comments using the hashtag Swanscast. Thank you guys, appreciate it, and best of luck for the weekend. See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Go Swans.
Go Tigers.